was like, what happened? Did you guys join a cult?
It was my freshman year. I'd broken up with him before. 10 days later, I found out I was pregnant.
I was shocked to see the backlash.
My faith even grew stronger through it.
What made you become more vocal when it comes to your faith, but also your political stance?
The biggest thing for us was...
Welcome back to Not Alone, a podcast where curiosity and connection come first. You guys, I'm so excited. I'm about to leave to Peru. I'm going on a little girls trip. This is an adventure. So I feel like I'll be coming back with a lot of life lessons and insights and revelations, and I can't wait to download all of that to you. But today's podcast, I have Brittany Xavier, who is an OG in the social media space. I feel like she was one of the first ones that I started following on Instagram. I was really excited to sit down with her because she is an example of a public figure that has always evolved in her own terms, especially recently. There's been so much conversation around her choices and her children because as public figures, we obviously share a lot of our personal lives online. And it always blows my mind to see how the world perceives these kind of interactions and these kind of choices that people make and how they comment on them. So first of all, I wanted to sit down and kind of go through all of that with her because I feel like whether you are a public figure or not, we are constantly battling with these like outside voices, outside opinions, outsiders in general having something to say about what you think is best for your family. Also, just her recent shift into speaking more about faith, about her family life, moving from California to Tennessee and raising her kids in a different way. I know you guys are going to pick up on a lot of great messaging here. Again, I shared it with her in the conversation, but I admire people that can step up and truly speak loud about their truth and who they are. And I think she's a great example of someone in this space who's doing it. So enjoy. And I can't wait to hear what you think about this episode. Brittany, I'm so excited you're here.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like this was a very easy thing to put together, and which means that the universe has aligned for us. You came to visit Jaden, right? She's going to college.
She's going to Lynn University in Boca Raton.
Amazing. So you were here visiting. Perfect timing, and now you're here.
Yes, it worked out perfectly.
I started calling myself the OG because I've been on social media for almost 10 years now, but you've been doing this long. You're an actual OG. When did you start with social media?
I started my blog in 2013 and kind of just trickled from there. So I started Instagram shortly after that. I didn't really know how to use Instagram, truthfully, when I started it too. I was mainly just posting to promote my blog posts. So it was it was 3 times a day, chronological order. It was like new post on thriftsandthreads.com. So we were doing that really consistently for a year and a half. And then I started sharing a little bit more personal things. But before it was very much just to promote the blog.
At what point did you decide, okay, I'm going to go and start a blog talking about fashion?
Well, when we were planning our wedding, we got engaged and we were very budget oriented. So we did a lot of DIY. So I read wedding blogs every single day for the whole year and a half that we were engaged. And then once we got married, it was almost like a little bit disappointing afterwards because I couldn't read the blogs anymore. And we had gotten a nice camera for one of our wedding gifts. And so my husband thought, well, I can figure out how to start a website. We can take photos. And like, I was really into thrift stores and I would find cashmere and leather and I would mix it with pieces I already had. So he's like, why don't we just take photos of your outfits and we can make our own blog, but it won't be a wedding blog, but it can be like the same thing, like documenting your style. So it all just seemed very over the top at the time because I wasn't really into fashion blogs. I had, after that, researched and saw a few. I'm like, oh, this is fun. This is kind of what I'm doing with the wedding blogs, but just in the fashion sense. So it was almost like a way for us to, once we got married, we had all this extra free time. We weren't planning the wedding anymore. And it was just fun to go take photos on the weekends. And then once we set our mind to it, we were really consistent. We were very much into the analytics and it became almost like a game for us. It was really fun.
Wait, I didn't realize that it was his idea. That he was like, you dress up and I'll take photos of you.
So when I first met him, he had like 10,000 followers on Twitter. He was all into Twitter meetups and he was very into the SEO.
Yeah.
So that was his thing. We would go to these random meetups at like Knott's Berry Farm. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean a Twitter meetup? I was so clueless to all of it. We were really into listening to the Pat Flynn podcast at the time, which was passive. I forget what it was called, passive money income, something like that, where it's like you can get affiliates from blogs. So we knew that's how the wedding blogs were making their money, but we didn't understand the click sense. We didn't really understand it. So then diving more into it. And then because Anthony can pretty much figure out anything, if he watches a YouTube video, he's very gifted at all that. So he was the one, he's like, we can do this. We can figure out the analytics. I can check the back end. I can help you with coding. And I'm like, it all seems really overwhelming, but I'm down. This sounds fun.
I love that.
And I was always very much into writing. I love to write. So that was something that was really fun.
So you're like, this would be an outlet for me, and then we'll be able to make a little bit of money. Why not?
Yeah, we always thought if we can make extra income on the side. We did the Dave Ramsey financial peace class. So we were really into paying off our debt and doing like the debt
I feel
snowball.
like you guys this is a very mature and like adult approach because you were young. How old were you when you got together?
I met him when I was 24 and we got married at 26.
I don't think people have their life together at that point of like doing all these workshops and like listening to
Well, I did have a 3-year-old. When I met him, I had Jaden, who was 3 at the time. So I do feel like I was like in a little bit of a different mindset than the kids I was going to college with because, you know, they would go to school and have nothing outside of their classes. And I had work full-time, school full-time. I had to go home and make sure that I was there for her and any off days I wanted to be with her. So I do feel like it made me grow up in a way where I was very driven and she really like helped me really focus too afterwards.
So let's actually talk about the early motherhood because you had Jaden, you were 20?
Yes. Donna was pregnant at 19 and then had her at 20.
Was that with a boyfriend that you had at the time? Like, was it planned or did you want it to be?
No, definitely not planned.
No.
I was going to a Christian university. It was my freshman year. And I got pregnant. I found I was pregnant at the end of the year. I had broken up with him before. 10 days later, I found I was pregnant. And we weren't dating that long. It was, you know, one of those.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wait, so what was it like? Ever had to kind of sit with yourself and think, do I continue with that? Like, I know where you stand now, but I don't know back then as a 19, 20-year-old, like how did it look like for you to all of a sudden envision your life with a baby?
Yeah, I definitely didn't ever plan to have kids. At that moment, I was very much, I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to live in New York. I wanted to live in a skyrise. I had way different goals for myself at the time, being so young. And also, I don't know what I was thinking because I love being a mom and I love being married now. But at the time, for me, it was very much like, this is the worst thing that can happen to me. And also, it also felt like I was the last person that would happen to because I was very like, that was my first boyfriend, you know? And I was very much like, people were like, she got pregnant of all people, you know? It's like, it was that type of thing. But yeah, I struggled. I definitely struggled with the idea of abortion. I had an abortion, an appointment planned at least 3 times. Every time I called and just couldn't go through with it. I was doing a little bit of modeling at the time of my, like, I was trying to wrap it up because I really wanted to go to college and they really wanted me to go to Milan and they're like, college is silly. Like, why are you still pursuing this? So I was kind of just like trying to get out of it at the time. I was doing it more during high school. Just like I would do more catalog work and things like 17 Mag, that kind of thing, more editorials. So at the time, my mom calls me and just says, okay, there's just like one, and of course they would call the house phone at the time. She's like, you have one, like, this can be the last thing. They've already booked you, already have it. Like, just if you want to do it, it's in Tarzana, no big deal. So I'm like, well, what is it about? She's like, I don't know. It's like some editorial, but it's only going to be a half-day shoot. So I get there and I was supposed to have the abortion on Monday. And this was like my 3rd appointment. You know, I had grown up in a conservative home. I was I had a purity ring. It was very much like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. This was like in my mind was very much like, you know, saving myself till marriage. Clearly I didn't. So anyway, I get to the shoot and I'm like, okay, so what is this about? They're like, oh, it's how to have a life after a baby. And I'm like, oh no, it was for Self magazine. And I'm like, oh gosh, no, like I cannot do this mentally right now. So I'm like trying to hold it together because, you know, they're probably just like, okay, go to hair and makeup. I'm just really struggling that day because I'm just like, I don't want this to be.
How far along were you already?
I think I was probably like 6 weeks.
Okay.
So the little girl was named Liberty. She was running all around and the husband I was supposed to be shooting with was really attractive. And I'm like, oh, like, this is weird, you know, this is really weird especially because it was like supposed to be like the activities we do outside of regular family activities, you know? And so that was like the whole shoot. It just hit me weird. It was really hard for me. And then when I was getting my makeup done in the chair, the lady doing my makeup was like, I'm so sorry. I have to go outside for a second. And you know, in LA, it's very much like sometimes people overshare where you're like, yeah, probably shouldn't just tell me all your personal secrets. But she just was like, my sister's just got back from an abortion and she's like devastated. And so I need to
All
talk
of
to her.
this
No, I'm literally
happening?
like, I cannot ignore this. Like God is
That's
definitely trying to get a hold of me. And so after the shoot, I just felt a difference. I was like, I can't. I like feel like he's trying to tell me something. And if I don't listen to it, I don't understand like where, like, I feel like it's, in my mind, I was thinking it was going to make my life better. But in this scenario, it was showing me like, I can't have a life after a baby. So it makes me like,
That's
insane. It was just so much for me at the time. So anyway, I get back home and I just tell my mom like, okay, I'm not going to have an abortion. They were really just praying for me. They honestly said, we're not going to pay for the abortion.
Yeah.
If you do that, you would have to do that all your own because they don't support that. But they also said, we'll support you if you want to do adoption. We'll help you find an adoption family. And if you want to raise a baby, we'll help you raise it. So I think that because they were giving me all these options to make, it was like, it was going to be my own decision instead of me just rushing to make a decision to hide everything. And he also told my parents, which I wasn't planning on telling my parents. So
the guy that you, okay. So he knew
Yeah. So all of a sudden he was against abortion after I told him I was going to make an appointment. So then he called my dad. Yeah. I was like, well, that was not.
Girl, that's a lot to
but I'm honestly glad they
process.
found out because I was too scared to tell them. And I shouldn't have been because they were really understanding afterwards. But it was just like, what is happening in my life? I already had a deposit down for my lease on my apartment for my sophomore year of college. So it was just like, what is happening? I'm going to have a baby and I'm going to maybe do an adoption. It just like all seemed so stupid. I was like, what am I even thinking? Yeah, that was like a huge year of growing. I took a medical leave of absence so I can still have my scholarship. And I took a year off school and then I went back and finished. I went to a different college afterwards to finish, but I had a political science degree thinking I was going to go to law school.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
But she, like, I'm obsessed with her and she changed me. The minute I had her too, I was crying thinking like, I can't believe I was going to abort you because I was so obsessed with her.
And your parents helped you raising Jaden.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, that's such a gift, honestly.
No,
and
such
like
a
the
gift.
power of having that kind of support. I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that there were all these like screaming signs around you. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't have asked for any
And there was all these little
direction.
things that fit together that when I look back on her story, like I really truly believe that God was encouraging me, like, you can do this. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to hold you through it. And like I've met Anthony through having her. My life, I love my life. Like I can't imagine her not being in my life.
Where were you at with your faith back then?
I knew all the things. It was very much head knowledge, but it wasn't really a part of my everyday. Like I had to go to chapel because I was going to a Christian university. I feel like I knew everything because I was very much, I had gone to church, I had gone to VBS, Awana, I did all of that. And I feel like I knew everything, but it didn't really like get a hold of me until I got pregnant.
Well, then you have to connect the brain with the heart in order to make it make sense, right? So how was it raising a child while you're still a child? And I'm honestly asking that because in a way I've had not the same experience because I got married, you know, my husband is older than me, so there was a bit more of that foundation. But I had my kids at 22, 23, and then 28. So at 22 now, as a 35-year-old, I look back and I'm like,
You're like, I'm so young.
My God, what did I even know? You know, like how did I even navigate all of those years?
Yeah.
So I'm curious for you, coming from the experience that you had, how was it raising her? Did it feel like you're raising a little sister in a way? Like, or did you have that like maternal?
I was very maternal towards her. I was very protective of her too. We also had to do, it was a custody situation. So he ended up moving to Oregon after when I feel like she was 9 months. And so he actually wanted full rights to her to take her to Oregon. So it was really hard for me because he kept trying to battle that in court. So that was also stressful. He didn't want her going to school because he wanted to make sure that she could just go live up there with them. And that was never going to happen. Of course, like anytime we went to court, it was always like, these are ridiculous. You're not going to be able to take her away from her mom. So he ended up getting certain weekends he could fly down and see her, and then also different holidays. So I was just always really protective that like, it's hard when you send someone, you know, you send her away, and he wasn't really involved or never really made a lot of effort.
Yeah.
So that was like, also, I'm like, is he going to be watching her? Is like, she going to be by herself? Like I was always just like, it's weird because you're like, this is my most precious gift and you're giving her over, thinking that like you're not really knowing his full intentions. Because
But it's also the emotional maturity is not there yet, right? Like yes, you became a mother, but you're still forming and learning how to handle certain emotions. And like when you are in this situation where you're giving your precious thing to someone. Like, I can imagine there's a lot of anger, animosity, frustration, like so much going on there. And you need to take care of, raise like a little child as well. This episode is sponsored by Floatley. Listen up. I've gone through my fair share of getting so frustrated with finding the right bra, and this is why I'm so excited to introduce you to the brand Floatley. We finally have a feel-good basic brand that creates bras that giving you both the support and the comfort. Hallelujah, just took us a million years. The cozy adjustable bra is one of my favorites. This is the perfect solution for those of us who want to wear a bra without feeling like we're wearing one. They have the adjustable straps, the back closure, soft and buttery fabric, and the free cut edges that eliminate those annoying gapping and digging into the skin. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Also, what I love is that the adjustable bra ranges from sizes extra small to double XL. No wires, no seams, all comfort. You can use code Valeria20 for 20% off special offer on Floatley.com. That's Floatley, Floatley, Floatley.com, and Valeria20 for 20% off. Enjoy.
I tried to put her first no matter what to make sure that she was safe and she felt that she had a safe home and was secure. So that was always my mentality. So I feel like, yeah, it was hard. I mean, I missed out on hanging out with my friends or the things I probably would have been doing at the time. But I guess I didn't really look at it like that because I loved being with her. I never felt like, oh my gosh, you're a burden just holding me back. It was more of like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky I have her. So it was like, that was my mindset. But I did always feel really guilty that I was working full-time, going to school full-time. She was with my mom a lot of the time during the day, thankfully. And my mom was able to help me with that. But on my days off, I was going either to work or school. So I did feel like I wasn't home enough with her as much as I would have wanted to be. And clearly I was like paycheck to paycheck. I really didn't have the option to. And I'm thankful I went to school. But it wasn't like I had leisurely time off with her.
When you look back, do you feel like it's a blur? Because to me, it was a blur. Like, I don't remember so many moments from the first 2 years of each kid. Maybe the first year. The first year was for sure a whole whirlwind of emotions because I wasn't like checked in. I was just surviving, trying to figure out.
Yeah, because then I would come home I put her down and then I would have to write a research paper. So I'd be up doing...
Oh my God. And I didn't even have that kind of mental...
Yeah, so I was very much into... I broke up my research. They were usually like 40, 45 pages, but I would break them up to where I could write them over 3 weeks and make sure I could get in a page a day. So that's the only way I was able to make sure that I wasn't... I couldn't pull all-nighters. I had to make sure that I was sleeping as well. But I think when you're younger too, things are just easier to do. Like, you can run on less sleep. You're kind of like... less set in your ways.
Yeah.
And I do think that, like, I breastfed her for over a year and I would pump and figure it out. And I'm like, I'm still very much like that now. But at the time, it's like all the stuff I had to bring to work, like all my baggies, and I was just so set on
challenges.
You just do
like, it is what it is. That's it, right? When I feel like with more information, as you get older, you kind of expect different kind of outcomes. You have higher expectations, right? And the resilience is a little bit lower.
It's true.
So I totally get that. How did you navigate career and having her and the feeling of guilt? Like, what was kind of your trajectory for yourself career-wise?
Once I graduated college, it was so nice to actually have days off with her. And okay, I don't have school anymore, so now I can just go to work and then have my 2 days off. And then when I was studying for the LSAT, it was hitting me like, I'm going to do this all 4 years again. And I was getting a little nervous about it because I thought I'm finally feel a little free. Like, I finally have, and I got a job after school and I was working. So I was working set hours. It wasn't like before I was working in Nordstrom. So it was very much like retail hours. I would do closing shifts and just sometimes they were odd hours. You would do inventory scans. So with this, it was very much like, oh, I work 8 to 6 or whatever I was working. And I thought I would love to just keep doing this and just like really build. I actually interviewed a couple of mom attorneys to see what their insight was. 2 of them told me that it was really worth it on the money they make. And like the first couple of years are really hard, but then afterwards it was really worth it. One told me that she wishes she had more time with her kids. So that hit me because I was already struggling with that. I was already thinking.
You only need to hear it once and you're like, okay.
That was my sign. I thought, you know what, this is maybe, if I didn't have kids right now, I could really invest time in it. but my heart had changed towards it. And I had always been on that path where I was going to be an attorney, that I was just doing it because I was like, that's what I always planned. I got to stick to the plan. But it just allowed me to think, what should I do? Like, maybe that's not making the most money probably isn't the most thing for me right now.
I know you're saying it as a very like, oh, by the way, that's what happened. But I don't think people realize, those who experienced it realize the amount of inner struggle that you have to go through, not to only kind of break this idea that you had for yourself for years, because you've been fostering this like path for yourself for years, thinking I'm going to be a lawyer and this is what I'm going to make it, this is where I'm going to live. So you already have to figure out how to reshape that vision for yourself, but then also be kind of at peace with it. Were you at peace with it, or you just kind of made a hard decision and like, I'm changing the trajectory of my life, and it took you a while to get to that peace with it?
I was very much praying about everything too. So I was very much like, I would pray like, okay, God, if you want me to go to law school, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go full in, but like, please show me. So there would be little things or different things people would come up to me and say, and I'm like, that's really odd. But like, I felt like it was because I was so specific with my prayers. Like, please show me. I don't want to step out. I was really big on not wanting to step outside of his will, because I really felt like I made a mistake in the beginning, but he works all things for those who love him. So he works them out for your good. So I was really focused on like, I know he's going to work this out for my good. I know I need to trust him. So that was my mentality then. I honestly don't think I would have been able to get through that on my own strength. There's no way.
I gotta tell you, it makes me really emotional hearing you speak about faith in that way. I think it's so special. And I mean, you know it yourself. You don't hear it. That's not what we hear every day. People talking about this surrender and this unwavering belief, and it just makes me so, I love that. It makes me really, it's amazing. I really want to understand more of kind of how you continued fostering this relationship, because it sounds like a lot of the challenges that you've had throughout these years weren't really challenges. They were more kind of redirections because you trusted in like a bigger plan.
Yeah, and I do think it was kind of refining me and making me, because I feel like when you go through challenges like that, when you go through hard times, that personal relationship with God is really where you find out that you can trust him no matter what. And there'll be little things like, I'm not kidding you, I needed money for a retainer for an attorney, because he kept taking me to court. I'm like, I cannot get an attorney. Like, I can't afford this.
What was why?
He really just wanted her to live in Oregon.
Okay.
And his mom really wanted her to live in Oregon. So that was the thing. But the courts were very much like, you had her in California, you decided to move, and you didn't get permission to, like, he should have gone and said, I want to move, can I get permission? So he just kind of left, and then we didn't hear from him for like 6 months, and then he started filing all these things. And it was stressing me out, because like, I don't have money for this. Like, I cannot afford to go to court. And so he had an attorney, but I was representing myself, which is also not good, because like the courts, it's not good when you represent yourself, I learned. So, and I was like, I was studying, I was volunteering in the courts. Like, I felt like
ChatGPT, you guys.
Oh my gosh, just winging it on my own, which probably wasn't the smartest thing looking back. But so I decided, I was like, I probably do need to get an attorney at some point, because I'm nervous that she's going to get taken from me. Like, I'm nervous that they're going to think this girl's dumb. Like, she doesn't know what she's doing. So my grandpa, who I literally never talked to, like this far distant, grandpa, he was super old, or he was like my great grandpa. Anyway, didn't really have a great relationship with him. And he had sent me a check amount for the exact amount of what the retainer was that I was thinking I can't afford. And he wrote me a note saying, I know that you're a young mom and I've been thinking about you. It was literally like, it hit me so much. I was like, hey, this is only from God, because I've been praying. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do. Should I get an attorney? I don't want to go into debt. I can't open a credit card. So it was very much like, there was little things like that happened all throughout, where it's like, there's no way anyone can tell me that was a coincidence. I wrote him, I said, thank you so much. This is the exact amount. Thank you so much. Like, I'm literally like been praying for this. I'd like to know what to do, because I didn't know.
What was your support system back then, community-wise? So yes, you had your parents, but as a young mother who is trying to put herself, on her 2 feet and build something for her and her daughter, did you have a supportive community around?
I had my 2 best friends from high school that were my friends that I feel like when you go through a hard time like that, you realize who your true friends are too, because the ones I was going out with a lot, I didn't hear from those people anymore. They're like, oh, you can't go out? no use to us anymore. But my two friends, they were so great. They were my best friends. We'd hang out. They would, we'd go to dinner and bring Jaden along. We'd go to the mall with her. We brought her to so many things. Like we were so used to just, okay, let's bring Jaden to everything. And we walked around the mall when she was 7 days old for like 6 hours. I don't know why. I'm like, I would never do that.
You
now.
needed to get out of the house, and that's it. Jaden is with you 24/7.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So when you started your blog, it wasn't really personal, right? It was more around...
It was more just my outfits.
Your outfits kind of got into the fashion. What was that turning point where you started involving Jaden or like kind of showcasing more private
I would
life?
probably show, I want to say maybe like 2 or 3 years in, where I would show a photo of here or there, like. But with TikTok, I started that in November of 2019 because she actually got in trouble for screen time on TikTok because I was very like big on certain screen times for, Snapchat, or she wasn't allowed to have access to that. And then all her screen time. So school hours, she wasn't supposed to use any of these apps. And then I saw that she was using this thing called TikTok. I'm like, what is TikTok? She explained to me, she's like, it's this funny dance app. And I watch all these dances and I try to learn them with my friends. She kind of got me looking into it. And I realized there wasn't anyone doing fashion things on there. So she kind of would teach me the dances and we would do them, but she wasn't really in them. It was more just like me trying to figure it out. And then I want to say that January, I posted a video saying, oh, I didn't know if I shot my daughter when I was young. And then I showed a picture of her and everyone's like, oh my gosh, I thought she was going to be 1 year old. Like, but she was older, And so that's kind of like when I started introducing her just a little bit, just to where it wasn't so much fashion and no one knew anything else about me. Looking back now, I would never let my kids have a phone at 13 years old. So lesson learned there.
So tell me about those lessons, because you had this journey together with her on TikTok, and I'm sure that you were exposed to a lot of lessons in general. Tell me a little bit about that. So the phone before 13, I love that you're saying it, because I've been kind of talking about this because my kids right now is doing like PowerPoint slides and all the things to try to convince me to get them phones. They're 13 and 10. Jake is going to be 13 soon. No, I'm honestly, I'm not. And I posted about it and I got some heat. People were like, you're being selfish, which is amazing to me. But it's very interesting to see how people in general approach this whole like phones and kids. But for you, you gave Jaden a phone and then also access, and you started creating content together.
Yeah.
What are some lessons you've learned from that experience?
So she also had a TV in her room and a phone. So then we were very strict on the screen time. I was probably the most strict out of all her friends, as far as she had to put her phone out at night. She had to put it in the living room and charge it. But her screen time, her apps would go off at a certain time. So she had a little bit of time to use them, but she was always saying, oh, I'm not able to do this. Like, can you please?
Of course.
Yeah, it was always a thing where it was like, she's like, none of my other friends have any restrictions on it. It's like, you have enough time, but you're just burning through it really quickly. I think going back, like with our little ones, they're probably not going to get a phone or at least a smartphone until they're 18. Yeah. Just to where they can have a phone if they need to contact someone, but it doesn't need to have Wi-Fi and all the access to scroll the internet. When
you were with her online and creating content, were you able to show her social media from like not a consumer, but more of someone who that's their work? Like, was she able to see those sides of social media to understand certain psychological effects? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
So anytime she would appear in an ad with me, I would offer it to her to see if she wanted to do it. And if she wanted to do it, she would get an appearance fee. So she very much learned like the business side of it, of how we made our money. And then she would also work with brands directly herself that were like appropriate, like Pottery Barn Kids, or like the ones that it wasn't anything that was very much like too adult for her. I really made sure that the brands were appropriate for her age, but it was very much, if she said she didn't want to be in something, that was an end. It was like, okay, she's not going to be in it. I never pushed her to say, you have to film with me, or it was if she wanted to film, or if she came to me and said, can we do this trend? Then it would be like, okay, we can do it. But it was never like, you have to film. I never wanted it to be like that with her.
I'm sure that for you, it was a process to kind of shift your focus and identity online to what you're focusing on now, which is family, faith. And you guys just moved recently, which I want to get into it. But last time I remember you were like running around the streets of Paris, deep in the fashion world. I don't know, it felt very far from what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Like, what was that shift about? Like, what happened? Because it looks like you kind of stopped abruptly, if that makes sense.
I think the biggest shift for me happened after I had Poppy. I went to my first fashion week after that in 2021. We did Milan and Paris and New York. So that was very much, I think it was 3 weeks. We went to New York, came back for a couple of days, and went to Milan and Paris. And at that trip, I told Anthony, I'm like, I need to get back. I just stopped breastfeeding too, and it was very emotional. It's like that feeling of your hormones are everywhere. I probably wasn't in a good mental space to be gone from her for the first time for 3 weeks. Like that was not the smartest thing at all. I think it was like 2.5 weeks, but I was really struggling there. And when I got back home, I just thought, I just don't want to travel like that again. Like, I do not care. I want to be with her. And it really shifted me. And I truthfully don't think I would have had that realization if I didn't have her. Yeah. Because Jaden was in school. She was kind of doing her own thing. And because we were traveling, she was also in school doing sports after. Like, she was not a baby.
Busy.
Right.
Yeah.
And so not that I would want to be gone all the time anyway, but I could talk to her on the phone. She knew what we were doing. So with Poppy, it was like she didn't even understand why I was gone, you know? And it was like, we got back. And so after that, then I had Elliot. I got pregnant with him about 1.5 years after I had her. And so it was almost just like we supported brands from home, but it was more of like, I just knew I didn't want to be traveling that much anymore. It really shifted for me.
It's reminds me again of kind of your journey that you had planned out for yourself, you know, with the law here, because I'm sure that you kind of knew what it could evolve into and how big it can get in the fashion world. How was that like coming to terms with, okay, I'm shifting again, like I'm putting this away and that's not going to be
I think
what
having Jaden and realizing how quickly her childhood went, like she's already in college and the influence that I have over her is getting less and less all the time.
Yes.
You know, like she calls me for advice. I'm like, oh, do you want my advice or do you just want to talk? And she's like, I just want to talk. But I think just realizing I wanted to be home with her more than I was. Mm-hmm. And now that I have the opportunity to, I felt like I was still working way more than I needed to be in a way. Mm-hmm. So when me and Anthony really came together and thought, what is our why behind what we're doing this? When we first started the blog, we wanted to make extra income so we could be at home with Jaden more, that she didn't have to go to after school care. So now that we hit that, now we have a full-time nanny with our little one and we're gone a lot. So like now what's the shift what are we doing basically? Like what are we doing this for? And I think we just came back to what our values are. Like their childhood goes so quickly and I didn't want to miss out on it. So in a way it was hard for me because I thought, I worked so hard to get to this point, and Anthony's always so supportive. He's very much like, there's a season for everything. There's a time and a place. Like it served what it needed to do, but like this is our number one right now. And so he was always very much like, do you want to still be going to Fashion Week? Pushing mid-40, not that I'm mid-40, but he's like, what's the goal? Like we want to have a family.
It's true, because you can get so wrapped up in it that you kind of forget what is this chasing around is for. And I had that realization, I would say last year. I started kind of skipping a lot of them because I'm like, this does not fill up my cup. It doesn't make me any better at what I do. I think that my season for that is done. It's time for like the newer kids to come in and do their thing.
And I do think it's like an ego boost in a way too, if you think about it.
Well, I think you also reach a point where you're like, I don't need that validation.
Right.
Which was...
It's fun at the time. You're like, this is, but at the same time, I was also like, wait, what is my value? My value shouldn't be which brands I'm working with, what shows I'm going to. My value should be like, what are my goals for my family? And what are we building that's going to last beyond this? So I feel like it was hard for us because it was almost like we were on the roll with it. So we kept doing it. It was like, we do the next thing. And also shows are also not just the show. It's like the year of shooting the things. You're doing loans. You're doing different relationship building things throughout the year. It's not just the one show. There's a lot of things you're doing in between. So it's like you have to be all in. You can't just be 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah.
And I think with having Elliot too, it's like, and then we had 2 little ones and we're like, we really need to get on a different schedule to where we have more free time with them.
So is that what brought you guys this idea of leaving California and moving to Tennessee?
Well, Jaden told me her junior year, we had already thought that she was going to be going to school in California and we were building our forever home is what we thought at the time in Pasadena. Mm-hmm. So she tells me her junior year when we were visiting different colleges, like, oh, I think I want to go to school out of state. All my friends are going out of state. I'm like, what? This is news.
That's not the plan.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not the plan. Like we've always talked about, she loves the beach. You know, she always is she's a California girl at heart. Mm-hmm. But she's very much like, no, I want to do something different. I can always move back to California afterwards. But for the 4 years, I want to challenge myself. I'm like, what? And also being able to see the little ones too, because it's like they are so close, but it is a funny dynamic because she's 16 and 14 years older than them. But Poppy's always like, I want to see Jade. I want to see Jade. So we FaceTime all the time with her. But once she told us that she wanted to go to school out of state, and she wasn't sure where, but she knew that she wanted to visit a lot more colleges out of state, that got us thinking, because the whole time we didn't move out of California, we were originally thinking about moving to New York back when she was in 5th grade. And she was like, don't make me move my friends. Like, I do not want to leave, like starting over, so awkward. And we were like, we don't even know if we would like it in New York. Like we love going to visit, but we've never lived in the snow or anything like that. So it was almost just like, let's just let her finish high school and with her friends. And she had been going to the same school since 4th grade. It was almost like she has her friends. She has a good group of a community of kids. And it just seemed weird to just like up and try to us figure out where we wanted to leave. So then it was like, okay, we have these little ones that don't have friends established, that don't have their community established yet. We work from home. Why are we staying in California? There's really no reason for us to be here. And then when she told me she wanted to go to school in Florida, I'm like, okay, now there's really no reason for us to be that far away. Not that I would follow her everywhere, but it is way easier for us to take a 2-hour flight than a 5-hour.
100%.
Yeah.
But you're saying, why are we still in California? What made you stay there? Or was it all solely because Jaden had her community there? Like, did you already start thinking about leaving California before?
Well, my husband and I are both born and raised there. So it was very much, we have always loved California as far as the weather, and we have a ton of friends there. Obviously, like our whole life is there. We don't really love the heat either. We love, we like it for a season, but then we love cold. So we're like, maybe we should go somewhere with 4 seasons. So our friends moved to the Nashville area. We went to visit and we fell in love with it. And that was Anthony's first time in Tennessee.
I was shocked to see the backlash you guys got moving from California to Tennessee. That was just so crazy. And again, I'm so removed from a lot that's going on social media. But for kind of the purpose of, sitting down with you, I was going through some comments. I'm like, people have lost their minds.
You're crazy.
Did you expect that it's going to happen? Like based on this personal choice for your family?
Especially because we had a podcast episode at the time that before we moved had gone through all of our pros and cons, why we came to this decision, all the thought process. It was a year in the planning. So we had talked about like why we had made this decision. I thought people were also going to be confused because we were building the house. And so it's actually on the market right now. But that was always the plan, to like move in to our house after we were in a rental house at the time. And so I just thought that that was the biggest thing. Like, why would you spend all this time building a nice house and then leave, after you just like, shouldn't you have figured that out before? But California has had some issues in the last 5 years. It's definitely not the California that I grew up with.
The least.
It's definitely gone downhill in just different ways. So if those issues weren't there, wouldn't have been thinking about moving. So it's like if it was just how when we grew up and it was more safe.
It was crazy to me to read because it was Jaden's last year of high school and you left. She had a few more months left and people made this whole thing, you're abandoning your child type of conversation, which I was like, what?
Yeah.
That was crazy to me. Like, what were some of the things that you've read that you're like, what? How did people even get there?
Well, what happened is a girl who had a TikTok account, but she didn't have that many views on her videos, maybe like 20 views here or there. She had posted a video that said that we were leaving California to go to Tennessee to avoid some child law.
Yes.
Some child, I forget what the law was. Something.
It was, okay, yes, that was another thing I wanted to ask you. So there's a law that if your child is in your content, you have to give them like 50% of a paycheck or something like that. And that's a video that I saw. We're like, oh, they're leaving because they don't want to pay Jaden.
So that video ended up getting like 10 million views. And so other people jumped on it and it snowballed. So it was like just their thoughts about it. But that was the only viral video that creator had. And of course, I'm like the one video that does really well. But I was like, I didn't even know about this law. But if you go back to any of our old podcasts or YouTube videos, we talk about investing for our kids. That was like the number one thing, especially if you follow the Dave Ramsey thing, you're investing for your kids like right when they're born. And so that was always something that we had done. I never even considered to me of not investing for my kids. I'm like, Anthony and I had so much debt like after college. We never wanted them to experience that.
Just the audacity and it was like so absurd, honestly, to see how people were making it into an issue. Did it become a little bit difficult for you to show up online and kind of, showcasing your personal choices and then dealing with this public discourse, like all these people kind of made it their topic of conversation.
The timing wasn't really great either, because while we were in our rental house, we had found out that there was mold there. So they had us move out, and they're like, we're going to give you months back from your rent.
Yeah.
So we got all like remediation for that. But it was right after the LA fires. So all the rentals in the area were, people were still living in hotels. It was crazy. So, and I was also concerned about the toxic air. I mean, I had been on different Zoom calls with environmentalists from the area, and they said, if you guys can get out of LA for at least a year until the dust settles, it's not good to breathe that in. And although it should be treated as more of a bigger emergency, they don't want to freak people out. So that was also my thing. It was like, we're going to stay in a rental for 3 months until Jaden graduates high school. And she was also like, Mom, I can live with my friend. Like, she's at her friend's house every night almost. So she's like,
you're also not leaving to God knows where. You're like in the US.
And I'm like, I told her, I was like, why don't you just do online school? I'll fly you back for prom, all the things. And you don't even like going to school half the time anyway. You complain about waking up in the morning. And she's like, Mom, I want to go for my last 3 months. And she didn't want to do online school. So she's like, I'll just come out. I mean, I saw her, she came out twice. So she came out every other weekend. We saw her so much, but I think it was just the perception of, we're leaving for this law, which was completely a rumor. That I even met with an attorney about it to see if I should do anything. And she's like, what, are you going to sue this person who has probably no money and also draws more attention to the fact that she's just running off a rumor? It's just like, you don't really get anything from it. And it's like,
so I give them their 10 seconds.
But it's like someone can just make something up and just have no proof.
That's the scary thing, right? It's like, and I constantly watch this happening online, where you see all these commentators. This is why I think I have such a hard time talking about pop culture, because I'm like, we're just sitting here speculating, connecting dots that God knows like if they even exist. And it's such a pointless, use of time. But it was just really crazy for me to see that happening to you. You're not like some untouched celebrity. You're a public figure. You have your family, you share this with your audience. It was just crazy for me to see how people can kind of lose the plot or create their own plot.
I truly believe this, but we at the time started to share our faith a little bit more. And I do feel like there was like certain attacks. It's like, once you start becoming that you're trying to make a difference, I do think that Satan tries to be like, all right, you want to do that? I'm going to pull you down. And I really just, my faith even grew stronger through it, because it had to. So it was that plus all these hate comments of like, now we know who your favorite kids are. So you're like, what? I'm so confused, like how this even snowballed. And then it was also because we moved from a blue state to a red state, which I did not think that was going to be a huge, like a lot of people are.
That's actually the least surprising thing that I've seen on your social media, because I do think people are.
I guess I wasn't really expecting that though, because we had already talked about all the reasons why we picked Tennessee. So I felt like it was very like left field that people were shocked that we had moved. But I mean, people probably didn't listen to the whole thing.
But this shift on social media. So this is very interesting, because I think in a way I'm at this similar point with the way I show up online. If you're in fashion or something like that, you kind of keep politics, religion, all of that you don't really talk about. You constantly reiterate this idea of like, I'm a fashion influencer. Like, that's what I do. Don't come to me for whatever. But I do think that the world recently has really pushed people to take a stand and speak their truth, because otherwise you get lost in the noise. And it was very cool to see you doing that, because you really lean into it. So what made you become more vocal when it comes to your faith, but also your political stance, like in general, where you guys at as a family?
I think the biggest thing for us was we had really started to read the Bible every morning. And that was something that, because I had grown up in the church, I had always known Bible stories, or I had always known certain things just from, the knowledge. I had all the head knowledge. But this last year, my husband and I made it a commitment. We're like, separately, we're just going to go read for ourselves. Like, we need that time alone to be able to just dive in. And my faith has grown so much because of that, because of just seeing like all the times in the Bible that God has helped weak people and people that don't obey, and he constantly gives them mercy and grace. Mm-hmm. And you learn to trust him more too, because you're like, you got these people through this. And the most thing that's quoted in the Bible is, do not be afraid, have courage. So I feel like when all this was happening, I was like really diving in. I was like, okay, God, I felt like you brought us out here to Tennessee, but now I feel like, is it a mistake? Like, did I jump the gun and think that we were supposed to move and we had all this planned out? And we were really praying about it. We were like, we had felt pulled to leave, but we're like, this just seems so odd. Like for me, if I ever thought someone lived outside of California, I was like, oh, what? You live in the middle of America? Like that was just, I was like, I couldn't relate to it at all. And so I'm like, how is my heart now wanting to live in Tennessee of all places? And it's like a Hallmark town there. It's literally like, they go all out for Christmas. It's really cute. So I'm just like, even in my head, I'm like, how have I shifted so much to where this is what I want from our family? So we were really praying about it. The rental house that we were trying to get into out here had like 4 people that had put applications. So we're like, if we don't get it, that's like a closed door. We're like praying so specifically, like, please show us, close the door somehow on this, that we will just have confidence that like, it's not the right time. We can move in a year or whatever. And we're also trying to figure out our actual house that we were building. Like, it just seems weird that we're like just leaving all of this. And we got the rental, and which was crazy. So we found a church out there that all this was going on, right? Like so many people were writing hate messages, and just, it was a lot. And I feel like I've been in the industry for so long that I thought I was able, you're like above it in a way. Normally you don't read things. I'm just like, okay, like whatever people say, but there was so much at one time. And I think the biggest thing for me was that people were saying I was a bad mom. So I think it's like, you can say I'm ugly or all the other things, and I'm like, whatever. But the mom part, I think that's what really was like, wait, what? It was like making me second guess. And so we go to church, and this guy comes up to Anthony like out of the blue. I didn't even hear it, but I'm in the service. And afterwards, Anthony's like teary-eyed. He's like, I'm like, what happened? He's like, some guy came up to me and he said, I know life has thrown you a curveball, but trust God, he's going to get you through this, and it's going to be bigger than you think. And I was like, do you know him? He's like, no, I've never seen him before. We'd only gone to the church like 3 times. And so Anthony was like, we're going to be fine. Just trust. I'm like, okay.
But
like,
you've been unapologetically coming out now and like, again, sharing very vocally on your, like, on who you guys are now, on this evolution and this new identity. And I think it's hard for some people to kind of digest it because they know you as this one thing, and you evolved into something else, or not even evolved, maybe just like went back to your roots, you know what I mean?
I think I also wasn't truly like super, like, I did have my priorities out of whack before. And it took me a while. It took me having 2 little ones to realize what those priorities were and what I wanted to get back to. And also, like I said, diving into the Bible after this last year, it's honestly really shifted like what I think of, like what my goals are and what I want to do. It's like it created something different in me. So I think that it's hard for people, especially people that don't follow God or have no idea like what that feeling is or what it's like to have a relationship with him. They're like, what do you mean? That seems all so strange. But it's like the more you trust, the more you're like, you're just, what you want is different. So
what do you feel is next for you? Because you've been in this industry for so long. You've had all these different versions of yourself. You have this whole new version, coming up. And again, you're sharing it with the world. You're really talking about growing your own food, and you're moving to Tennessee, and you're talking about God, like very conservative. And where do you see kind of your influence going? Like, what do you want to do with it?
I think the biggest thing is someone had told me before all this was like, oh, I didn't know you guys were a Christian. And that really hit me. I thought, if you come to my page.
Actually, same thing. I also didn't know. That's why I think for a lot of people, it was like, what happened? Did you guys join a cult?
Yeah, no. And we never shared. We'd go to church. We never would share it. I just was I was very much like that was separate. And that was just such a bad mindset to be in. That should have never been separate. And my head to think that if someone came to my page and said, oh, I had no clue. That really hit me and really convicted me. And I thought I want people to come to my page and feel like they can learn something regarding God, or they can feel more of like, there's something different. Like, you don't have to do it all yourself. Like, the inner self power is
limited without, the bigger power. I love that. I mean, listen, I'm inspired. I'm not a Christian, but I think that as a Jewish person, I just think in general in the past couple of years, I've been working on rediscovering my connection with God. I'm like you, I grew up where it was all around me, but I just kind of took it for granted in a way. And I do believe that spirituality and this connection to a greater power. You can be part of any religion, doesn't matter, but something that kind of leads you and supports you on your journey. I think that's so important. And I feel like people need a little bit of fear. You know what I mean? Like guidance. I don't know how to call it exactly. I'm still like finding the words.
Yeah, but also reading apologetics books is a great way too to just know what you're believing is true. And
Reading what?
Apologetics, which are books that basically back up the faith and with historical and just all this different evidence that is corroborated from people that aren't Christians or they're just like from a secular standpoint too. But The Case for Christ is a really good one. I highly recommend everyone read it. It's by Lee Strobel. And he was a Yale graduate, but he was a legal editor for the Chicago Tribune. And his wife became a Christian, and he was very much against it. He's like, I can definitely disprove this. He would do investigative journalism to...
I think I downloaded that book actually.
Yeah, it's really good. So that was one that I read not too long ago. And I had learned things that I had no clue that were verifiable evidence that just couldn't be disproved. And so he ended up being a Christian from trying to disprove Christianity. And he writes it like he's doing a true crime investigation. It's really interesting.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. And same thing with, I just read I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. And it talks about how scientists tried to create the idea that the earth always was. And even Einstein said it's a very inconvenient truth that they had to start it with something. They didn't want to admit that it could be from a creator or a God, but the universe had to have a start point because of all the facts, even though they wanted it to be that it always existed. So that was something I also didn't know. So there's a ton of different facts in there and evidence for it's really
okay,
good.
So repeat the two books: The Case of Christ.
The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel, and then I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Frank Turek.
That sounds like a fascinating read.
It's really good. I love facts and evidence. Like for me, I love that. And I didn't know there was this whole genre of books that completely, like, you feel so much stronger afterwards because you're like, I'm not an idiot following this. Like, this is provable.
Right.
And they go into they go into different historical like evidence they find, and it's really cool.
Brittany, I love this whole new version of you. I don't use the word authenticity because it makes me want to vomit, but at the end of the day, authenticity is really putting who you are out there and not being like, you're being vulnerable by doing that and by sharing that. And I think that you're doing that so courageously, and it inspires a lot of other people to ask questions, to look into their connection with God, into whatever it is. So your message is so bright, I think. So I'm excited to see
Thank you.
how it continues to
My biggest
evolve.
regret is that I was too afraid to say that sooner. Like, I think that that's my biggest thing is like, I was too reliant on the brand deals or like trusting the brands versus trusting like, okay, God, you obviously gave me this platform for some reason. Like, I feel like I wasn't using it to the best ability or like to give glory back to him. And I don't know. I feel like I wasted so many years. Like, that's my biggest regret
Didn't
right now.
waste. You were getting ready so you can hard launch this new message that you have. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't miss my newest episode right here. And if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, please go and leave a review with your biggest takeaway. I love reading your thoughts. They inspire me. So if you have any suggestions for guests or topics, you can leave them in the comment section. And always remember, you are not alone.